Rockford region is home to a wide variety of manufacturers. One of them started in Freeport more than a century ago. WIFR news reporter Anthony Ferretti talks with an executive from the Furst-McNess company in this week's edition of Shaped in the Stateline.
Furst-McNess has 8 different locations between the United States and Canada. 5 of them are used for manufacturing, and their U.S. headquarters is in Rockford. Frank Furst and Frederick McNess started the company bearing their last names in 1908 in Freeport. Home products were the main focus until 1959, when it shifted to its current focus, animal agriculture and nutrition.
Farmers, oftentimes they don't have their own nutritional consultants on staff, so we have a PhD technical team that can help assess their needs, develop feed formulations that are designed for their farm, and then we can manufacture those.
The ingredients the company sells is put into the feed farm animals eat to produce meat, milk, and eggs. Executives say the company works closer with its customer base compared to some of its competitors.
We want to make sure that the feed that the animals are consuming is healthy for them. The food and nutrition that they have is just as important as taking care of you and I.
If an animal consumes it, we'll find a way to provide that ingredient or that finished product.
2 years ago, to get the company closer to a market with more options to hire employees, President and CEO Mark Peschel brought its U.S. headquarters to Rockford. Executives say the Forest City is a place for them to grow the business through its workers.
A business in the Rockford area just stimulates the area and brings jobs and opportunities to the community, as well as being able to serve the farmers and the customers.
As we're building our culture of safety, trust, collaboration, quality, and customer service, the ethics and the values of people from Northern Illinois really help us create that environment.
The closest manufacturing facility to the headquarters in Rockford is at a factory outside of Madison, Wisconsin.
Execs say there are about 70 employees at the Wisconsin facility and roughly 300 total. Other manufacturing locations include Iowa, Georgia, and Florida.